name is Erica Shemwell, and I live in Lehi, Utah, and I have 7 kids. Their names are Landon, Emma, Lily, Sophie, Tanner, Amelia, and Caleb.
I'm Spencer Shemwell, and I am the father to 4 kids, Braden, Harper, Avery, and Bexley.
I had always known the moment we kissed, we were gonna get married. Either way, he kissed me, we were engaged a week later, and then we got married 6 weeks after that. Right after we got married, we moved all the kids in together, and it's been about a year and a half now.
Hey guys, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. It's March 19th and I am so excited to be back with you. We have a new topic that we're going to be talking about today, and it's called The Blended Bunch, or the modern day Brady Bunch, which is the new show on TLC. A lot of you guys have been asking me whether or not I'm going to cover the show, and I'm really split, but I did watch the first episode just this morning, and I was going to come here and just talk to you about the episode, and then I started going onto TLC's website or onto TLC's social media, and I noticed a barrage of really negative comments about the show, and I noticed that a lot of the people were feeling exactly how I felt after watching, and so I was like, all right, let's talk about the show, but like really let's talk about the reaction of the show, because right now people are really upset about the show in general, and they're upset about what this is doing to the kids on the show and just overall the people that made the choice to go on the show. So the Blended Bunch is supposed to be like TLC's answer to the modern day Brady Bunch. Now TLC, known for having shows with like 1 million kids, and often the kids are from deeply religious families. So you already have like the Duggars and Outdaughtered, and you've had like the Sweet Home Sextuplets, you've had John and Kate +8, you know, you have all these families that have had a lot of children, and so that aspect of it is not abnormal. Erica and Spencer Shemwell are both Mormon, and they are living in Lehi, Utah. Now, Spencer actually is not from Utah. He moved to be with Erica after they had met online in a support group for individuals that lost their spouses. So on the surface of the show, the premise is that 2 people that have both been widowed have found love and found a way to find happiness again after losing their spouses tragically. We have Erica, who met Tony when she was really young. They got married and they had 7 kids. While they were married, Tony was diagnosed with a tumor in his brain, and he ultimately passed from it. She was 29 when he finally passed, and by the time that he passed, they had 7 total children. And so she and Tony had a lot of kids together. He passes, she ends up having to become ultimately a single mom of 7 kids, and she's basically all alone in Utah, and her family kind of moves to be with her in Utah, and her family is very protective of her, primarily her brother Quinn, who is very skeptical of her relationship with Spencer, and even her parents are kind of like a little bit on edge about whether or not this relationship is a good idea. On the other end of things, you have Spencer, who was in a different situation. His wife was not sick, and she was actually pregnant, and they had gone out for dinner, and they ended up getting T-boned by I think a farm tractor. She passed away at the site of the crash. He survived, their kids survived, but she was pregnant with their 5th child, and so he became a widower with no preparation. Like she wasn't sick. This wasn't a situation where this was expected. With Erica's situation, they kind of knew that this could happen. So 2 different premises brought them to 2 different situations brought them to losing their spouses, but they both lost spouses and they both had children, and they're both of the Mormon LDS faith. They meet online, and they meet through a support group, apparently, whether it's on Facebook or some social media site, and they start becoming friends. And I guess, so Amy passed away in November of 2017, and Tony passed away in 2016. And when they met, Erica was about 2 years into losing her husband, and he was about a year. And so they met, I think they said in like 2018 or 2019. And then they got married very, very fast. So they meet, they become friends, and they get to know each other online. And then he goes and meets her, and they get together, and they apparently have some play dates together before they actually become, they're friends before they start dating. And then when they start dating, they kiss, they literally get engaged a week later, and they're married 6 weeks later. So the romantic relationship between the two of them went very fast. They had she had 7 kids, he had 4 kids, and suddenly he had moved his kids across country. Not long after his wife had passed away, he kisses a woman, gets married to her within 6 weeks, and then suddenly all of the kids are living together. And let me add here that a year and a half into their relationship, they begin filming a show for TLC. So this has a lot of people kind of, that premise in and of itself has people really upset, because one, people feel like, why on earth are you going on to television so quickly after the loss of your spouses and such a new marriage, and your kids are so clearly grieving. So I wanted to walk into this with an open mind, and I wanted to walk into this feeling like really uplifted and think like, yes, this is going to be a great idea, except the first episode was really hard to watch. And I'll tell you why. It seems like the kids, now I understand I've never had to blend a family, but there's so much more to this situation than two people that have become divorced, because both kids on both sides have lost a parent. And so they are the only ones, like, they can identify with each other in a way, but then they're also having to deal with the loss of their parent while also somehow trying to navigate a relationship that their mom and dad are in, or that their mom or their dad is in, and try to adjust to having all these new siblings, which is pretty dang impossible. Now, on a blog post, Erica says that the kids have been in therapy, grief counseling, all of that stuff. But again, I think the biggest thing and the takeaway here is that it's very clear that they've moved together into a situation where they'd been living about a year and a half together when they start filming, and they still are really getting to know each other. And Erica and Spencer are still getting to know each other. I mean, they go on a date, and she's basically like, I love Friday nights. I love date night because we can have our time together and get to know each other. They're still getting to know each other, but they're already married. And then their kids are struggling to get along with each other. Some of the kids get along really well, like their 2 sons that are like both 12 years old get along. But the girls are really struggling. Like her oldest daughter, Emma, is pretty brutal to his kids and his daughter. So he has a daughter named Harper who's 8, and her daughter, Emma, is just awful to her, just mean. And Emma in general is just, the way that it was set up. And obviously you cannot take everything from face value, because that they've condensed all of this into like 40 minutes. But the way that they've painted the children in this is that the children are out of control, that they have bad attitudes, that they speak poorly of each other, that they're fighting, that there's no discipline, that they speak poorly of one another, that there's so much fighting, and they don't get along. And you see a woman, Erica, who already had 7 of her own children, now having to take on 4 more kids. She admits that she was already stretched thin with the 7 that she has. And then she's trying to navigate the emotions of these 4 children that have lost their mom, but that don't accept her as their parent. And even Spencer admits that it's hard on him because he's giving love to these kids and it's not been reciprocated, and that's hard. Now, these are probably things that are typical with families that blend together, but I don't think the typical aspect is that they've blended 2 families that have recently lost spouses, and then the kids are still grieving, and then you put them on TV. There was a lot in this episode, like her brother doesn't really approve of the relationship. He thinks that Erica moved way too fast. He thinks that perhaps Spencer does not have the right intentions because he moved so quickly to her and he pushed marriage so fast. And it was just like, was he looking for a babysitter? Was he looking for a mom immediately? And second marriages have a higher rate of divorce. And then there's also this aspect of they're both kind of in this really sad grief stage. And so in a way, they've almost bonded through trauma. And trauma bonding can keep you together and keep you united, but it can also, when you're going through trauma and grief, you can also not think clearly, and you can sometimes make choices impulsively to maybe cloud or cover up the pain that you're experiencing. Now, they both say that everyone goes through grief at a different time. Everyone has to start dating when it's right for them. And I don't think really people are judging that per se. I think in general, people were just upset with the way that the kids acted on the show, the way that it was so clear that the kids were still grieving, and then having to, in the midst of their grief, I mean, one of the little boys is like grabs a photo of his dad and goes to bed crying. You know, it's hard. You're watching this and you feel like you're watching something that's like way too intimate. And perhaps this will help people for like those children that have experienced loss, but at the same time, this is so raw in their grief. You have to stop and think like maybe this feels like a tiny bit exploitive, and like how is the added pressure of going on TV going to help the kids and help this experience, and how will it actually, you know, the added stress of the media and of the criticism, like how is this relationship even going to stay together? And they're already within such a short period of time also discussing wanting to adopt one another's kids. And overall, I just felt very uncomfortable watching it. And there was one other aspect, is that like her parents don't want the kids to like his kids to call them grandma and grandpa, and Emma tells them that they can't call them grandma and grandpa. There's just a lot of fighting still, like you're not my real sister. They don't even see each other as siblings. They don't view the step parent as their parent. And it's just a lot. And now they're going to adopt the kids, and her brother is very against that. Her parents are supportive. Her sister is supportive, but it honestly feels like a recipe for disaster. Now, here is what TLC's Instagram. I feel bad for the kids after losing a parent. I wouldn't be worrying about finding another mate. My kids should come first, let alone marry someone and move them into my house with his kids. The kids got no say in this. My heart breaks for them. They lost one parent. Now they have to share the other one. I would have waited until my youngest was 18 and out. When the little one said that she is not her real sister, she wasn't wrong. She was not ready to be forced into it. I watched half and had to turn it off. I felt bad for the kids. I'm praying for them, literally. Another person said, I hope the kids are able to get some grief counseling because it still seems very fresh for everyone emotionally. Another person said, oh my God, some of the kids are not nice to one another. Bexley is so freaking adorable. Another one said, these kids seriously need therapy. When the mom's parents hesitated and said not to call them grandparents, my stomach literally dropped. The eldest daughter being so extremely mean to Harper, what the hell? I'm angry and wanted to throw my phone at the TV. These people need serious help, and I'm saying that in the most respectful way. Someone echoed those same things. I hope these kids are in therapy. It's beyond obvious that many of them can't deal with the grief that they hold. One other person said, it was very hard to watch this. While I was very glad these families can come together to support and love each other, the children are obviously still in pain. The way they speak, the screaming, I truly hope they're receiving some therapy. Another one said, the show made me so sad. Also, the poor kids seem so rushed. I think the mom should consider their feelings, especially with changing their last name. Maybe hyphenate it instead, but losing their dad's last name is very sad. Another one said, the family needs to get it together. I realize these children miss their bio parents that is now deceased, but being disrespectful is not acceptable behavior, needs to be addressed, and the rules and the boundaries need to be set ASAP. Also, allowing children to say that one another is not your real sibling, fill in the blank, is just wrong. The parents are married, the children are brothers and sisters now, and that also goes with grandparents. How do you look at a small child in the face and tell them to call you by your first name? Another one said, I feel like they married way too quickly. These poor kids need some time to process everything that has happened. And then one said, the comments are so bad. So no matter what you think about the show, and no matter what you think about their choice to get married, or how quick everything is, my concern more than anything is that the kids are so obviously in pain. And I just can't understand how the parents in this situation would be like, yes, my kids are already struggling. They practically hate each other. Our house is a disaster. We're barely holding it together. Now let's go on TV. I can't understand that decision-making process, and I can't understand the fact that they would put their kids through this knowing that there's so much trauma still at home. Now, TLC doesn't really care about trauma, clearly. They still have the Duggars on TV and it doesn't matter to them. So I'm not surprised about TLC. I'm surprised that the family made this choice, but I'd like to know what your thoughts are about this. Do you want me to keep covering it? Do you agree with this outrage? Are you like, no, it's really great to see blended families, and maybe some blended families will identify with some of these issues, and maybe that's why TLC is wanting to do it. Maybe the drama will get better throughout the season. I don't know. What do you think about all of that? Tell me in the comments below. Bye, guys.